It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
Don't fear. Declare your independence of me, Ernest Hancock, from the Sundarn Desert. Oh, man, beware the Ides of March. Here she goes. And we're going to dovetail into a bunch of our activism, the preparation. Now, Doug Casey inspired this, Matt Smith and Maxim, his son Maxim, which is, how old is
He's
Maxim?
20 now. He's 20.
20 years old. We've had him on. I remember when he was little guy before puberty, and, Matt is, raised a man. Well, part of that, Doug Casey had the idea that, God, men need to just do a man thing. I mean, holy crap, we got to get out of this beta male crap and have a real man. Well, he created a course that is 16 quarters, which is 4 years. And 4 years of a college education costs you $1 gazillion, and you come out with purple hair. So what they wanted to do was to have a really a good curriculum, life experiences. Like Maxim now I think he's in Thailand, isn't he, learning Muay Thai?
Yeah, he's in a Muay Thai camp in Chiang Mai.
Aren't you scared? No, Dad.
I don't worry about that. I was more worried about when he was learning to fly a plane, to be honest.
Yeah, they learned to fly a plane. He became an EMT. He worked in wildfires, as a medic kind of thing. He sailed down around the Falklands, the
Strait of Magellan.
Strait of Magellan. And this is just like being a cowboy. He's learning. I mean, this is man stuff. Well, he's only like a year into it, or
2 years
or less.
Now. 2 years.
Really? Okay, so
in 2 years.
He's whipping through that book. And they learn, they put in places to go and do different, like building a house. You want to be an electrician, a plumber, HVAC, kind of build a house, you'll get certified, I can tell you.
Exactly.
So this is so awesome that you, at the foundation, you get people that, I asked a good friend of mine one time, I go, what's the opposite of fear? And he goes, competence. Whoa, I didn't see that one coming. If you're good at something, you're competent in a lot of things, then you got confidence and you're not afraid. You don't fear things because you're competent. You can sustain your life. You can keep breathing in and out, and create a nice little nest for a little birdie wants to live with you, you get a family.
Exactly.
So this is, a lot of people, well, you don't want to marry me because I'm not rich or, don't have a house. Yeah, you got a nest, I'll get all over it. So this is something fundamental. Now, we talked about the Philosophy of Liberty Project in the middle of March that we're doing, and I want to marry that activism thing. It's going to go worldwide with the preparation because it's part of the solution. It's rebuilding humanity from the ground up. The children. Well, damn, Skippy. The first thing is yank them out of government schools. That's the first thing.
That's the first.
So one thing that we wanted to get into the background of this, how we can marry it. We're doing a bunch of the heavy lifting on getting everything all ready and so on because it's so freaking time. And I always don't waste a whole bunch of time fighting headwinds. You know, I'm looking for the tidal wave, the tsunami that's coming. Oh, ride the wave in. We can get to the beach, Ernie. Or I go, hell, I want to go to the Mississippi, man. I'm waiting for, the freaking big wave. Well, this is the wave a coming. And everything's going back to physical. They're starting to, this pretend manipulation, short, whatever, that kind of stuff. Oh, they crashed silver down to, what do they do? It's down now to
like
what?
76.
76.
Yeah.
Of course, all of us bought it when it was in the teens. 76. Oh my
I know,
God,
it's a
down.
crazy price. Actually, it's as much as it is, and people are worried about it.
I'm seeing infinite of I don't care. I'm a stacker, but this is, and of course we get a lot of that from Matt and Doug, and they got their own podcast that they do on a regular basis. And but the preparation was what, and I told Doug, I go, this is it. Here we go. I know Matt and Max, and we are going to be pumping the crap out of this. Now, he was disappointed that he goes, it's only like, tens of thousands of copies, and we only made like $1 million. Where I'm going, man, you wealthy guys killed me. I just, you have that many out there changing minds and like making money, So it's just beginning. This is
what I think is the best part of it actually is that it started to show up in U.S. libraries. And we self-publish it on Amazon only, and then I noticed it picked up at a couple libraries. I'm like, it must have been people asking for it, So the libraries were actually buying it on Amazon, and then I made it easier for them to buy. And now at this point, so this has just started over the last 6 weeks or so. But now it's in 22 libraries, which has gone up from last I checked, which was like 3 weeks ago, it was in 6. Now it's in 22. Now there's thousands to go. But to me, that's a great sign. I get it. So it's accessible to people that could just go and check it out. So if I have a call to action for people here, it's call your local library and ask them for this book, and they'll order it and get it in stock. I mean, just so it gets freely available.
I have it here. I got a hard copy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Boom. The preparation. I mean, it's not a small book, and it's full. It's curriculum, a life, right here. That is, so of course I got it for my grandson, a bunch of my listeners, got it for their kids, and they're talking about, so, a portion of those sales was, the audience seeing it was time. So this is, I want to go back. I know Doug had this, because he lived it, this is how you get to be, I could have done it when I was in, my 20s or teens or whatever. But I guarantee Matt did a lot of heavy lifting on this,
Yeah, I mean, I wrote most of the book, but the core idea came from Doug, and he first pitched me on it 12 years ago, and he said, I wonder if I'm interested in writing a book called Renaissance Man, and so I asked him, what's it about? And he said, well, I want it to be about the 3 most important verbs in every language: be, do, and have. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, I'm not sure. And that was our conversation, 12 years ago about it. But fundamentally, that is what the book is about. It's about be, do, and have. And, we focus on have generally. So you want to have a nice car. You want to have a beautiful spouse. You want to have. Our culture is all oriented toward this having. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with having. I have lots of stuff. I like stuff. But, the thing is that what nobody tells you is that have is a consequence of do. Product. And so by focusing on the have rather than on the doing, you're making a big mistake there in that case alone. But the most important thing fundamentally is be. And so when it comes to the book, what we try and ask young men who are reading it is, what kind of man do you want to become? Like, that's the question. That's the fundamental question that should drive then what you do, and your actions then will produce all the haves you need. And probably more than you even, beyond your needs. And what people don't understand, young people they feel very disempowered. They don't really know what to do because the options that are set before them are so limiting. This was a situation that Maxim was in that made me go back to Doug after 12 years and say, okay, what was it? Let's talk more about this book. Because I just turned him down for years. I wasn't interested in doing it until I could see in Max this sense of deep uncertainty about the future, a lot of anxiety, that would manifest
itself
video
sometimes.
Games. I don't even have a problem with video games, but it's like, because in a way, video games are like one of the few things a kid can do without being harassed, so much. So actually, there's so many unapproved activities for young people. They can't go off. It's too dangerous outside. Don't go off and explore. Don't go build forts or any of the stuff we used to do when we were kids. Like, that stuff it's off the approved activity list. What do you have left?
Yeah, the parents go to jail.
I had the cops called on me when my kids were walking in our very safe neighborhood in Denver. It was not even half a mile to the park, but they were walking alone. And so some nosy neighbor thought, oh, this must be a dangerous situation, and called the police. I mean, it's outrageous that happens, but it is what happens. So the approved activity list is so small for young people that what they want to do, let's say most young people want to be somebody, and they know inherently to be somebody, they've got to do something worthy. They've got to do something meaningful. But who gives them the option? Like, what options are in front of them? They could do something meaningful. There's so few and far between. So that's what we're trying to offer with the book, fundamentally, is something meaningful, something that will help you become the man you want to become. And along the way, develop a lot of skills, the competency you talked about before, which then translates naturally into confidence, and which then translates in your ability to actually create and shape the world around you, to create value. And then if you can do that, you can, of course, earn an income. So, yeah, that's what the book is fundamentally about. It really is about be, do, and have. And we try and outline specifically exactly what to do as a replacement to college. Now, most of the people who are doing it, I would say, are not people who are, when at Max's age, who are 18 and instead of going to college did this. There are some that's the case for, but there's a lot of people who've gone to college and it didn't land right after. It didn't get them what they were promised they were going to get, and so they've come back and now they're doing the preparation. I have emails from people in their 70s who told me, "Oh, I'm going to do some of this." So. Yeah. It's not limited to that limited time space, but it was those people in mind. It was Maxim fundamentally in mind, in my mind when we wrote the book.
It was interesting to me when we started doing Occupy the Land stuff, our audience, whatever, but I had 3 people, and, 3 was a lot to me, that were retired or in their later 50s, calling, I just want to do so. I want to, I did my life. I want to come out and help and see what you're doing, the build, and and they'll come out, fine. I got some concrete to pour. I mean, come on out. And we have the conversations and talk. And so they just, slip me some money. Thanks for letting me have this experience, kind of thing. In their late 50s. I never poured concrete. I never worked on it. I never, used a hammer. And I remember there was the Porcupine Freedom Festival in northern New Hampshire. There was a guy that had this blue school bus he painted blue, and it was called the Tool Bus. And he set out tables and everything. He came from another state, and he set out all the tables, and he had from like toddlers and elementary school age kids out there. This is how you use a hammer. This is what a screwdriver. This is a flathead versus a Phillips. I mean, it was called the Tool Bus. I thought that was awesome. Then you have a lot of, people in the Liberty community are encouraging, even though it takes more time, you give them the help on the land or your farm or doing stuff, probably faster, you could just do it. But it was more of a service to the community to raise the kind of people that you're talking about, to give them competence. And that really stuck with me, competence. You never hear that word, and certainly not associated with confidence. So the first third of the book is more philosophy and the why. Nobody ever asks why anymore. Why? And it goes on about the mindset that you need, the philosophy behind it. Talk about that. I really want to know, as they're going into this, they get a full-on education just in the first third, just to, why. You talk about that for me.
Yeah, well, the first part is I want to dispel a lot of the myths that people that basically are kind of built into the institutionalization that we all suffer from if you've come through the system, any system at all, about the way the world works. For instance, there's this basic concept of climbing the ladder to success. So it's one benchmark after another. Whether it be going from elementary school to middle school to high school, then to college, and these are all. And then there's this idea that once you achieve the top of that ladder, that you've achieved something. But what you find out is that at the top of every ladder is yet another ladder that you're supposed to climb. And so we, ask the question, like, who built these ladders and for what purpose, and who do they serve? Do they serve you at all? Well, in fact, I don't think they do. They serve the system well. And I have to say, I don't know anybody who is remarkably successful in any way, in any domain, that climbed the ladder. Instead they went their own path. It was a very unique path. So we try and dispel myths like that about the way the world works so that they understand it. We also try and give them some mental tools to understand the pressure they feel from their peers to basically go with the flow. It's very normal. I mean, you can't really help it. The effect of your peers on you and the system on you to go the way that everyone else is going is so strong. It's very hard to peel yourself away from that. So what we try and do is explain that in psychological terms, how that works exactly, and why you will feel pulled in a certain direction, and that can lead you astray. It can lead you far away from where you really want to be, based upon your own desires, your own hopes and ambitions for the future. So we try and just steel their mind, first of all, against the standard doctrine about how to win in life, which is nonsense. So we try and steal their mind from that. And then, there's a big part of the book that I just try to, I talk about some personal stories just to build some credibility with the reader, to let them, that I'm a real person and that I might have something to show that might be useful. And that gets into a lot of philosophy. And, I rely on the Stoics a lot. They've been very meaningful to me. I find them useful mental tools, at least for understanding your reality and understanding that what you are responsible for. And you're responsible for a hell of a lot, all of your own actions, all of the things that you do, but you're not responsible for anything else, what happens around you. And those things that we might look at as bad that happen around us may in fact actually be good. You just don't know. But what you can know is that your own actions are moving in the right direction. So we talk about the Stoic philosophy a little bit, only not in terms of doctrine or that you got to believe these ideas exactly, but just as a way to start to understand the world and how to interact with it more successfully. And these are basic foundational thinking that I've found very, very helpful in life. And I don't think anyone ever talks about it. So we start with those things. And then one of the things we ask them to do is we ask them to come up with we want them to basically build a personal code. And it might seem trivial, but I think for a young person especially,
foundational.
It's so foundational, because especially the first part is simply this. It's recognizing yourself, the things that you do, that when you do certain actions that make you feel small or make you feel ashamed, stop doing them. You don't have to tell anyone else about them that you do them. They could be, maybe it's for young people today, it could be porn, it could be, for me, I always feel really crappy when I tell even a white lie. If you ask me out to dinner on Friday and I say, I can't, Ernie, I'm busy, the white lie versus saying, versus being totally honest and saying, I'm not up for it this Friday. Can we do it another time? But I feel so much better being honest than I would by just telling the white lie of, oh, I'm just busy. So for me, by deciding that I will not do those things that make me feel small anymore, that is you start to, in a young person especially, you start to build this form of beachhead where their own identity begins to emerge. Because up until that point, the rules that they live their life by are the rules that have been given to them. And so I don't like rules generally. Of course, I hate, rules that are made for me. but I love the rules that I make for myself. I find them deeply empowering, and young people do too. I mean, everyone does. So, and this is where their self-identity, their real self-esteem, begins to form when they can say no to themselves. So there's that. And then we expose them to the virtues, the ancient virtues, and just say, pick some of these that appeal to you, to make these things that you can aspire to. You know, you could always be more courageous, but having these, you know, some of these virtues that really call to you as a kind of a keystone, you know, for how you might try and conduct yourself. Aspire to. You will fall short, but aspire to those things. Then that is this is the formation of the personal code. So it's a set of rules for yourself, a set of aspirations that are virtue based, and then ultimately we want them to collect the skills that they develop as they go through the preparation. Because when you see it on paper, when you see what Maxim has done on paper, it blows you away, you know? So you can't look at that and not feel, you know, like that you are your own person once you've gone through this process. So developing that personal code is a key component too in the first third of the book.
You know, the one thing, it does focus on men, but
Yeah.
I'm seeing that when you come out at the end of this thing, that you are attractive. I mean, you know, I want that man. You know, the little birdies, you know, putting up their feathers and saying, "Yo, what's up over here?" But is there a sequel? Is it the preparation for women for the prepared man? I mean, you know, it's going to be pickings are going to be slim out there for the prepared man. You know, so how much of this can apply to women?
Well, I have to say, one thing we ask people to do if they start doing this, if they start doing the preparation, to let us know. And then, because part of it is about learning how to hold themselves accountable. And so we have lots of people that reach out to us and tell us as they begin. And I have to say, there are about as many young women as there are young men doing it. So, you know, it definitely isn't exclusive to young men, but it was written with the young man in mind. Specifically, it was written with Maxim in mind. I was writing to one person. I was writing to my son, trying to give him not all of the things he needed to know forever, but the things that he needed to know at that time, and kind of an action set about what he could do. But young women have picked that up and run with it absolutely too. Now, I have a daughter who is 18 years old, and she's really in the same place that Maxim was when we began all this. And she's going through her own version of this. She's going to a house building school actually in March. And so that'll be her first major anchor course in the entire thing. And then she's going to this cooking school later this year in Italy as part of it. So
well, Max is doing a cooking school thing too, isn't he? Or going to? Or
it's in the preparation. So it's on the list. He hasn't gotten to that one yet. But that if he, you know, assuming he does follow through on every single cycle, yeah, he definitely he might go to a different cooking school than that one, but that is the one that's slated. Yes, and that's the one that my daughter Bella will be doing.
Go ahead and rattle off some of these events. Each of the 16 quarters has a goal, and you don't have to do them in exact order. I wouldn't imagine, but
no,
start rattling off a bunch of them.
Well, they start off in the real world and as tangible as possible. I mean, one of the things that I think, like, good ideas are one thing, and are very important. You have to have the right idea as a foundation, and that's why I love the stuff that you do, because it really implants these right ideas. But what supports that is putting people and make them confront reality as fast as possible. Make them actually where they get real feedback from the real world about doing real things, and that it's that meeting with reality that helps dispel any bad ideas that they might have in their head about the way the world works. So they go from really tangible things. The first one, and I think this probably is actually the best cycle for people to start with, and that's to get the EMT certification, because it can be done virtually. If you're in the U.S., almost everywhere in the U.S., there's an EMT school around you that's not far away, and it's easy for you to go a couple times a week, and for half a day is what Max did, and then get your EMT certification, and then you have a real skill that is incredibly valuable to those around you. So if someone gets hurt, something goes wrong, you have somebody who actually knows what to do. And most people don't. Some people have taken a weekend CPR, basic course or whatever. But like, this is quite legitimate. This is a much, much higher bar of capability that you have coming out of this. And I can tell you that after Max did this first cycle, he walked differently. He went from someone who knew nothing as a teenager, doesn't know anything, doesn't even know what he doesn't know, to someone who now actually understood something well, and that competence made him walk differently. So, and I love, it's great to have someone around who, because I don't have those skills. Honestly, I didn't go to EMT school, but I love having him around because in case something goes wrong, because I know I can count on him. And, he parlayed that into, a summer working on wildfires where he actually earned some great money. He earned $600 a day doing that gig during the summer. So, and one of the cycles is a work cycle where you spend, you'll be thrown opportunities as you go through this. And so there's a work cycle built as one of them because you're going to want to take advantage of it and make some money during parts of it. So EMT, there is a work cycle. Sailing is a cycle. Max specifically did this trip, as you mentioned earlier, around the Falkland Islands and then across the Atlantic and through the Strait of Magellan. That's the course that we actually have in the book, but there are, you could do other ones. There are other ones out there.
One thing I see on this, it says, earn while you learn. He's been getting paid sometimes doing this stuff.
He has. And I'll tell you the other thing. In his first cycle, when he was doing the EMT thing, he worked his ass off at part-time jobs and any of his extra time, because the thing that you've got, you remember this, Ernie, remember when you were 18, unlimited energy.
Excess.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, listen, if you have this time, go get a job. Go get a dead end job, because you will learn something doing that job. Absolutely. And you will make some money that will finance what you're doing. And so he worked at this soul crushing Office Depot job, under the fluorescent lights there, but for 5 or 6 weeks, I guess he worked there. But, and he, during that time, he managed to save over $5,000 doing it part-time, because he didn't have, didn't have any living expenses. And that's one of the other things that you have if you're younger, starting this. You have no liabilities. You have enormous energy. Your lever
if you don't have a student debt.
That's right. That's what you want to avoid. In fact, you want to avoid any liability, any inclination to get a car loan, or even, I have to say, even rent. If you can, my son has slept on people's couches. He's stayed with family in different places. He's just done whatever he could do to avoid that overhang of liability, because that basically narrows your options so much. You end up having to spend all of your energy working a dead end job so that you can pay your rent, so that you can continue. And you want to avoid the liabilities, because you don't need to take them on when you're young, and you want to focus on your using your energy that you've got by doing things, by engaging with reality as much as possible. So anyway, I'm losing track of where I am with, but the sailing is another one. There's a couple of different schools where they teach you how to build a house. There's the Shelter Institute. The one that my daughter is doing is a different one. It's in Vermont. It's a little longer. It's a month-long course, but looks amazing. So I don't have any personal reviews from people I know have done it yet, but she'll be the first. But it's amazing. They do everything. So like you said, the plumbing and electrical, all that stuff, it gets covered. Now, will you be an expert coming out of something like that? No, but you will actually understand how a house is built. You will understand how a house is designed, from the basics, the things you have to think about. It changes. Most people don't know anything about anything because we don't need to. We can order it on an app, the things that we want, and magically shows up at our door. But that leaves you actually totally disempowered in the world that you live in. You don't understand how anything works around you. You don't know how to interact with the world to create anything. It leaves everyone disempowered. And that's why those people are hungry to pick up the tools they're because they want that. They want something real. They want real life.
One thing that was interesting to me is South Park, always kind of on the edge of everything. And there was a episode to where the handymen where the guy's driving around in the Ferraris, Hey,
that's coming.
I need a handyman to do. I can't. Oh, well, I'll get to that next week, and it'll be $1 gazillion an hour or whatever. The point that they were making, we don't know how to do anything. At least after the preparation, you go on to, be a financier or whatever, but you can fix a leaky faucet. I mean, holy crap. This is so fundamental. When you selected the modules, the things to learn, what was the thought process going into these different things? Why?
Yeah.
Like, being a private pilot, he's training to be a pilot, he's doing all, a lot of these kinds of things. Heavy equipment, get his butt out here and he can use my backhoe. So, this is they need an Ernie module. Get his butt out. So this is, what was the breadth that you were trying to get? The experiences that each one of them produced what in you? What was the goal there and how you selected?
Well, a big part of it was we wanted people to learn real skills within a very limited time frame that would give them enough an understanding of how they worked that this isn't true in every case, but this was one of our key filters, that they then have the ability to create economic value with what they've learned. So like the pilot one is one where you can't, like you get your private pilot's license. Obviously there's not anything at that level that you can do that can, produce income for you. But the EMT one certainly is. The, how to build a house thing, there definitely is, whether it's working on your own housing or, your own whatever, or working for somebody else. I mean, you could do that. The heavy equipment operator is clear economic value. Even the sailing one, Max is a qualified crewman and can work on a sailboat anywhere in the world now when people understand he has this base level of competency at least to operate the sailboat. So economic value was key to it, looking for things that did that. And then it was like, what are the different options that are even available out there that someone can do? Like so many things are even kept off limits. Like it's like, you should be able to do some basic electrical, for instance. I mean, it's nice to understand how electricity works. You should have some clue, but most of the programs that are out there for that, you have to do you have to go to basically get an associate's degree, to do it, or you have to sign up in a union and work your way up in it. It's inaccessible. So we try to look for things that workarounds, things that were accessible. And these home building courses, they do give you the exposure to them without, and they can get around whatever.
Well, have to be a journeyman and join the union exactly. And all that crap.
Yeah, and that might be a good career for somebody. And we, wouldn't discourage it at all. Like I love the trades, but the thing is that the goal of Doug's idea is being a Renaissance man, right? We didn't title the book that because I said, I'm not sure that young people even understand what that means, or that it has the appeal to them that maybe it does to Doug's generation. So, and I know for Maxim, it didn't resonate with him. But the idea is that you should be able to understand how the world works around you, and you should be able to create within that world. And of course, that's the physical world, but that also extends into things like art and music, the cultural things that really matter. So Max has learned to play guitar. He's learned to speak Spanish, in this process as well. He started a business in Spanish here in Uruguay, which was scary. Honestly, it's a scary idea to me as a serial entrepreneur trying to do it now and seeing the handicap of the second language, And so, he's done that. And then, so it gets into more abstract things like entrepreneurship, like being an investor, like building things in the virtual world. We have one cycle called the hacker cycle where you basically use these new tools through AI that make it pretty easy for you to build pretty amazing things actually. And so what the idea is that a Renaissance man can do things that dazzle people because they have such broad experience and competency in so many different areas. And it's accessible to all of us, but how do you get there? And this book points out how to do it.
One thing in the Liberty community that's a big deal is they're starting to realize, the system, wherever the hell that is, rip you off, they want to bypass it and they want an intentional community. We need to, want to know who our neighbors are kind of thing. And I'm more about unintentional community. I mean, I want my property line. This is mine, not yours, mine, And then of course you're in a community. You got neighbors and you deal, and everybody out here in the desert, they love them some Ernie and Donna because we got a backhoe, you know? So I'm going, you need your septic thing. Yeah, absolutely. I'll take half a day and we'll get that done, and I'll, you know, fix the flood damage, grade your road, and kind of a day out of my life and go over there and, you know, how much for those fence posts over there? Give me a deal, you know? And then we have, you know, crypto comes. We're working with the Xano project, you know, to develop a privacy currency that can kind of whatever. But then, you know, we started back in 2009 with the silver dime cards. You know, we were definitely into physical silver. I give you a dime, and now it's worth, I don't know, whatever, $6, $7.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous what happened to silver. But the idea in economics, you know, an agorist market, the concept of it's going to come down to wherever you can see the horizon. If it's over the horizon, what do I care? I mean, you know, like, so it's what kind of social responsibility do you put on? How would they organize themselves? Where do they want to call their neighbor? What country do they want to live in? What is the wealth creation kind of? So you want to get into a broader economics or supplying basic needs. Either you build it yourself or you're in a community that you may offer tools to help with that. You know, we got a mesh network that we got up here. Yep. 200 down, 100 up, over 400 square.
Wow.
I mean, you know, damn. So we're doing it because we understood the categories, like what you have in your book, that was necessary for you to be an ad. Everybody wants you to join their community.
That's right.
We need an add, not a subtraction. So, Ernie, Donna, you need to come, you know, live on our hippie commune because you like do stuff. Like, of course you want us on your hippie commune. You know? So the attraction, the law of attraction of people that come together, that if you know that your personal space, your family, your patriarchy of your family unit or whatever is secure and taken care of, like a good neighbor, Ernie and Donna is there. So this fundamental basic, what do you do with this competence? What do you do with this earning ability? What do you do? How do you structure your voluntary interactions with your community? Where's that in there? It seems like in the first part, you're kind of building that, and then you're making an add to any community. But what is the ultimate goal? At the end of this, Maxim's probably going to go, I want to what? You know, what's the criteria for you having a successful life? And you're definitely, Matt's a have guy, okay? I just want everybody to know it's all about, I can make some more have. But it's...
I have a lot. I don't need any more. Not anymore. But yes, I have focused on have. And I mean, I pulled myself up out of the dirt, basically, with my only aim in life to not be poor, having been there, not liking it. But yeah, I think the ultimate thing, the ultimate end is to be valuable. To be valuable. I love when you're talking about the intentional communities, because that is everyone's dream, and they just don't understand this fundamental thing. It's like, before you get into that, try and be a great neighbor. Like, be a great neighbor. Be the neighbor that people want to have around. You know, and even if you have ideological differences with those neighbors, you know what? Will treat you well. Why? Because you're a good and valuable neighbor. And I think that is the key. That's the key. So with a young man, especially with Max, think about a young person like that, the idea yet about the broader consequences of being valuable are almost hard to grasp. It's the mission first to become the man you want to become, which is inherently valuable. And then I think it's, if you're valuable, then how do you use that value? I think if they have a good philosophical framework, I think the outcome will only be positive.
Being valuable. Define that real quick. You know, you're a valuable ad. I mean, it's not just skills. It's, you know, we have here, I keep going on. I go, rule one, this is rule one. Rule one is rule one. Don't be a dick, okay? Rule one, don't be a dick. You know, people, they don't want to help dicks. You know, they don't want to be part of your, you know, go to your barn dance. They don't want to, you know, help raise the barn. They don't want to, you know, rule one, don't be a dick. But what does that encompass? you're violating their pursuit of happiness, their life and liberty. Their 5 minutes and $5 from everybody to do what I want, and then it'll be okay, and you should do it because you should do it. This is ask not what country do for you for your country thing. Yeah, country would define that. I mean, I don't mind being an ad to my neighbors, but who's got to be my neighbor is going to be sucking off of my efforts, So this is, it's way more than just the competence thing, which is essential. It's the philosophical mindset. It's just, you own yourself. You got to respect other people's property. Hey, I got to negotiate. I wanted to do the road this way. Do you mind if we encounter that one tree? I want to plant a tree. I want to cut down a tree. There's negotiation in there. Where does that come in this? There's, you understand what I mean? This base.
Yeah. I mean, this is one thing there was a little push and pull about, do we start to include, I didn't want the book to be political in nature, and meaning that
there's not a voting chapter.
No, if there would be, it'd be like, it doesn't do any good. But I didn't want it because I didn't want any of the ideological piece of components that might be immediately rejected out of hand. Instead, I just wanted to focus on the young person specifically and what they are capable of doing, just focus on their capabilities. But clearly this, my ideology around all this is exactly the same as yours is. And, if you have a competent, valuable person, and that's a person who understands reality and understands how to create within that reality, how to shape the outcomes, how to have an impact on their immediate surroundings, that person then, I believe, will approach others with that context. And is it guaranteed that they will? No, it isn't guaranteed. But I think it starts it off right, because if you just understand these the philosophy that we share, if that's all you have, but yet you are not valuable because you do not have competency, then you start. Then where do you begin? To sort of self-actualize or to build anything useful in the world, if you don't have some basic competencies, if you don't know who you are yet, even you might have some ideas that sound really good to you, but when they confront reality directly, when you're taking those ideas into reality, do they work? I mean, are you able to actually build anything useful? Are you able to do anything valuable for someone else? I think that the philosophy that you teach is what comes. Actually, I mean, you could say that they go exactly at the same time as the preparation, or that they're most, in my mind, they're most valuable after they have an understanding of what's covered in the preparation, because then they are someone useful that can be helpful to the world, that can create for themselves a life that they would like. They can make sure their house and home is taken care of, and then they can go out and help others, in a way that is mutually beneficial for everybody. So that's the way I kind of view it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, you're building character. You talked about the virtues, and I had to look that up. You hear it all the time, good virtues of this, virtues of that. Virtues really are just traits, of your character. And it's and they can list them, and these are classic things. This goes back Greek philosophy of kind of whatever the virtue, and they had mythology and the gods of doing the Hercules and Zeus and Athena, all these stories and Aesop's fables and all this kind of stuff was exactly what we're doing. The philosophy of liberty thing, the preparation, it was all about instilling in humanity a basic fundamental view of life and what greases the skids for you and everybody else in society to be successful. But you select your own virtues. And I'm wondering how you define virtues. What are the virtues? Where do they come from? Did you pick on ones over others? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, the list is simply, we pulled it from well known in ancient Rome and Greece virtues. So, the classical virtues. And, so wisdom, of course, is one, justice is another. Now, how you define these things, of course, it gets into, kind of what you read and how you interpret it. But, courage is one, fidelity, these common, actually, I would say, they ought to be part of our common understanding, but they just aren't talked about anymore. So we just relied simply on, like I said, the ancient Greek and Roman virtues as examples. So we gave them a list, and they said, just go through these and pick some that call to you, that feel right to you, that feel like that would be cool to be like that, and then ask them just to select. But you're right, it's all about character. These are traits. They are chosen traits. And I think that they are the reason why they have stood the test of time from ancient times until today is because they work. They produce good outcomes. And so by following these traits, by following these characteristics, you have you're moving in the direction of value creation, of long-term thinking, of let's say, humanity edifying principles.
This gets into almost a cultural thing with religion. There's, be more Christ-like, whatever somebody determines that means. You wear the bracelet, what would Jesus do? And in high school, I was kind of like, what would Thomas Jefferson do? I was very enamored with the idea that government was about the individual and protection of individual rights, the Declaration of Independence. Government, what do you say you do here? Oh, you're stealing? Oh, okay, well, that's, I don't like that virtue. So, it's, you set your mind into the guardrails of a philosophy that, one, you're valuable, not a dick. People want you as an add to their society. They're not looking to jail you, and a lot of times when you are a virtuous person, you get targeted, by the bad guys. So in the understanding, as Maxim has gotten halfway through this, how have you seen him change? This is a very good experiment because the father wrote the book along with Doug. And then you have your son right at the age of doing this. You were motivated. Well, here we go. And it just, is there a preparation for the preparation? Being raised by you? Is there another book? Is there something more fundamental? First thing, get them out of government schools. That's the first thing. But, you have a preparation for this, which is the first part of the book, kind of helps, fill in the gaps there. But I want to know what your experience is as a father, seeing the difference in Maxim. Is he now a fellow man? He's kind of getting your more friends and associates than just father and son. You're getting more equality. When he gets done with the book, he's like, okay, I'll preface it with this. One time, Donna, I can't remember, God, we've been married 41 years or something. About 20 years into our marriage, one time I was giving her crap about something, and she was eating a pistachio, and she pulled out half of the nut. You see this? You see this, Ernie? This is my diploma from the Ernie School of Cool. I'm done. I'm graduated, and, I'm an equal now. Kiss my butt. So I had it gold-plated and put it on a necklace, and she wears her diploma, And so that kind of mindset that, I'm going, good for you, But has that happened yet? Is it happening? What's your relationship? How has it changed during this process?
How has our relationship changed? I would say, I think our relationship, we've always been close, and he's always been, he was a great kid anyway, in that he was always, I'd say he's the most coachable person I have ever met in my life. And maybe that's just with me. I don't know. Maybe because he trusts me, because no one wants him to win more than I do. I mean, there's just he doesn't want it as much as I want him to win. And and not that I have not like in a tiger mom kind of way at all. In fact, I'm kind of in a no pushing, no influencing his decisions way. I really want his choices to be his, and I support them. and which it may not sound. I think if people are listening to this, they probably don't believe that. But I could tell you that an old family friend, we were having dinner with them right before we moved down to Uruguay, and Maxim was 17 at the time, and the family friend asked him, "So what are you going to do? You're after." You're going to go to college, or what job are you going to have? What are you going to do? And he said he didn't know. And she goes, "Well, what does your dad want you to do?" And he said, "I have no idea." And I was so proud of that. I didn't put any pressure on him. Like I didn't say you have to do this or should do this or this is success or that isn't success. I've always left that open because I don't want to taint his potential by my own influence, over his decision making. So, but how has Maxim changed? He is gone. I would say he is a man now in all ways, except for the one I think that crosses the line, which is when you have your own children. It does change you in a fundamental way, I think, as a man. But other than that, he went from a boy who was anxious and worried about the future and angry, about his current position to being a man, to be somebody I was talking with somebody yesterday, and he brought Maxim up, and man, I'm impressed by the kid. I call them kids, but I'm impressed by him, by what he's doing. I'm proud of him, and I totally support it. And he's taken this, and almost because he's the example, he's taken it so seriously and pushes himself through discomfort after discomfort, and has become a remarkable person because of it. So yeah, I'm impressed, and I think our relationship is great, but we're not like friends, buddies. It's not like that. But it's that maybe I'm his coach. I want him to win championship, whatever that championship is that he's involved with, and I'll support him in any way I can, and encourage him and help him with. The biggest help I am to him at this point is basically when he has he had something the other day. He just started this Muay Thai thing maybe 5 weeks ago or a month, 4 weeks ago, I think. And he gets there and it's coming. He does one thing after another. Okay, so you have to understand, you have to stopping and restarting something every 3 months. That transition is difficult, and he's in an environment that's testing him quite a bit. It's very uncomfortable to him. He's and he's like, I know I feel this way every time I start something new, but this is how I'm feeling at this moment. I'm like, why am I even doing this? And so just helping him think through those things, just help him have some ways. Like I said, for me, he was talking about it being difficult, and I said, well, it's like when I was in the Army to get out of. So I said, well, this is not, when I was in the Army, I had the same feelings about this, except I had no agency over anything I did in basic training and my advanced training, and no agency whatsoever. And, but I took some solace in the time that I had. I would write. It helped me have like a 30,000-foot view on my situation. It pulled me up out of the mud a little bit and helped me see a little broadly. So try writing a little more, is what I told him. And so that's the only help I can be to him. And that's the only help the only utility I can have for him at this point, I think. And because he's so far ahead, he's just doing so well.
Well, tell me about, Doug is a metric guy, how many, how much, and I'm not, just not. But I'm wondering what success the book. I saw you guys on Glenn Beck, you and Maxim. I was trying to get you both on last time, but we did, Max. Now we're talking to you, and we did Doug a week or two ago, and I'm impressed that the presentation of the book itself, and I'm wondering how it's taken off. I don't think it's got its legs yet. It's not going to. This is going to be, oh my God, things are good. What about that preparation thing? I mean, once it hits, it's going to hit. There's going to be some influencing celebrity, somebody and say something about the preparation. Oh, well, hell, as long as Greenspan said the word recession, I guess there's a recession. I mean, it's that kind of crap. So I see the day has yet to come. This is preparation for the preparation. And I'm wondering how well it's doing in your mind. What did you expect when you launched this book? I don't, New York Times bestselling of We're Abandoned in College. I don't know where that's going to get promoted anywhere.
The fact that it's self-published alone basically makes it impossible to ever be on the New York Times bestseller list. They only do big publishers. Yeah. But, I didn't know what to expect from it. I had in my mind that I didn't think it would have any cultural significance at all until we had sold 50,000 copies of it. I don't know. It's just pulled out of my intuition. It's not any, real metric. And so far we've sold about 20,000 copies. So we're still a long ways from that point. But, I do see in these young people who are doing it, I see great things. So it makes me quite proud to see, and I'm obviously mostly for Maxim, but seeing other people pick it up and run with it and be inspired by the future, inspired about the future for maybe the first time, as a young person like that makes me feel fantastic to see that. So as far as hard metrics, about 20,000 copies so far. And I agree, Wow. It hasn't hit its stride yet. And that number doesn't seem big to me, honestly, because I know some famous authors who sell millions of copies of their books. But when I did look up some stats on it, and it's weird how badly most books do, of like the 28,000 published through the major publishers every year. Less than 1% of them sell more than 4,000 copies over their lifetime. So, we're already in the 1%, way beyond the 1% of books published.
Well, that's kind
annually.
of the point I was making to Doug. I'm going, what the hell do you expect? I mean, holy crap. This is breaking new ground. Is there any competition? I mean, I can't think of anything other than, I can't think of anything. Is there something like this?
There's not anything that I've seen anywhere. I looked hard for it when I was writing the book. I was looking for, maybe I'm not thinking about the problem, fully. So let me read anything else that might support it. And I couldn't find. The books that were out there were pretty lame. It didn't get you anywhere near where this one does. So no, I think it's its own thing. It sits in its own category. And I do hope we get to that 50,000 number at some point. I can say, I did a lot. I went through a lot of effort to promote the book initially when it came out. I did, 50 interviews over a couple of months. And, since when the holidays came in, I totally backed off of that. So there's definitely, I need to do more work to get the thing out there by promoting it, just by getting on people's podcasts and talking about it. So I appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's more than that. I mean, it's because it makes me cool, because I'm supporting cool
you
stuff.
You are cool. Come on. You always been cool.
Yeah, I at least want to be perceived as cool. So this is a promotion that's really a selfish thing for me. First thing I did, I got it for my grandsons. He's 15. It was perfect for him. Just put it in your room, kind of, browse through, take a look at, whatever. And then Derek, our IT guy, has a 17, 18-year-old son as well. Boom, definitely got it for him. Then we have some other people that got it for their kids. And I'm just so glad it exists as an option. And really, it's a repudiation of the system that, lulled parents into the idea that Uncle Sam's going to take care of it for you. We're going to, give them a loan. We're going to guarantee it. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Now, of course, you're on the hook forever. And then what are they trying to teach Generation Next? What is the goal? What are they trying to do? And parents get the first freaking Thanksgiving the kid comes back. What the shit am I paying for? Holy crap. So I want to talk about the cost of going through this compared to university. Now, there's a lot of offsetting you can earn while you whatever. So give that to parents that are wanting to go, okay, this kind of seems expensive. I mean, this is, in comparison to, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we the specific courses that we recommended in here, and of course we've talked about like learning to fly and heavy equipment operation, stuff like that. But in addition to that, there's also a full academic load included. It's not just that they're learning these physical things like becoming an EMT. Like the academics are not skimped on. Doug was a stickler for that, making sure that that was definitely included in it. And the thing is that most of the best education you could get at universities is available for free or virtually free online. So that's all layered into this cycle. So doing that, reading books. Max read over 50 books last year, as an example.
Oh my God.
So it's not just doing these things. It's the academic part is there. I just want people to understand that. But if you add all of these things up, I believe the total of all of them, if you did exactly the courses that we outlined, it's like $73,000 over 4 years for the cost of those courses, which is a lot, I have to say. But if you like it, we actually have, for the private pilot one, that is the most expensive one. I actually found something that accomplishes the same, but is much less expensive. That in the next printing of the book or when we update it, we'll have that in there, where we'll cut down the cost to do something like that. But you could you save those cycles for later. Like, don't jump into that one. You can do the inexpensive things first, like the EMT stuff, and you can parlay that into income in the way that Maxim did or offset the expenses. Now, I have some assets, and so people might look at this and go, well, this is what the son of like a well-off guy can do, but it's not accessible to anyone else. Well, I'll just say to that, Maxim started this whole thing. I had saved an embarrassingly small amount of money for him in a fund that he got when he was 18. And I say it's embarrassingly small because I didn't even meet like the amounts that I could legally deduct and transfer him to each year. So it was just dumb on my part. But that total was about $70,000. Okay. So that's what he did start with, $70,000. But today he has more money than that. Now the book sales help with that. That's true. But I could say before, when the book came out, he had more money then than he had when he started, because it's designed to be something that you can literally work your way through, that you can finance it through as long as you avoid the liabilities that are out there. So, it's not just rich kids can do it. I mean, it's something that anybody can work their way through.
Well, it's give people an idea. What have you calculated going through the book? What the minimum, maximum? I mean, of course you can, you got grandfather dairy farmer, that'll check off a bunch of whatever. And so I'm just wondering, what the expectation is, someone that wants to do this, what they're looking at. You got a limited resource, and you can create your own curriculum, the people that in industry, and because it used to be, internships. That was the thing, apprentices. I know in the book you emphasize mentors a lot. So talk about, there's some cost savings that you could have in there, but give me kind of a dollar amount so people, how many ounces of silver they got to set aside? I mean,
Not as many as it used to take, but I'll tell you exactly. Right. We calculated if you did exactly what's listed in the book, it's like $73,000 over 4 years. That's what if you do exactly that, exactly the cycles, exactly get it. The private pilot's license. I mean, all of that stuff. It was $73,000. Now, the way those things could be reduced is there's lots of ways it could be reduced, and there's lots of ways you can drive the price up more. But if you follow exactly what we prescribed, like I said, $73,000, working your way through it, you can, I think, cover all the costs associated with it. I don't think it's something that you have to be able to stroke a check for $73,000 to be able to accomplish. This is like college used to be, where you can actually pay your way through school.
Well, if you're paying your way through school, can it take longer? These 3-month things is kind of a timeline, which is good. You got to have a structure, but 45-year-old guy decides to be a man, he's going to, part-time do it. I mean, is there a benefit to having one after another and get it in 4 years?
Yeah.
Or is that was just a college replacement thing? Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, the 16 cycles in particular is trying to mirror the time that someone would expect to spend in university. Now, I think a lot of people will probably get 18 months into this, several cycles under their belt, and then be thrown an opportunity that they feel like is one that they should continue on. And then, maybe, continue the ideas of the preparation, but in the background. Yeah, is the way I imagine in reality it'll work out for a lot of people. The 4-year thing is artificial, just like the idea that you need to go to university for 4 years is artificial. So it's not required. However, I do think that there is great value in jumping from one thing to another and forcing yourself to walk away from the thing that you were doing that you started to feel comfortable in because you had competence in it. When you have competence, right, you feel comfortable, and switching to something else. Because that experience, that is the skill that allows you to continuously through your life develop. The skill of being able to switch to something new, feel like an idiot, feel like you're failing, but then work your way through it in a pretty quick time frame. So that skill, that switching is super important. So I think holding yourself to the 3 months is important.
Tell me about I wanted to get a bead on the influence that he has on other kids. Who's subscribing to his channel? Who's listening? Who's watching him? Is it grandparents, parents, kids? What do you think?
I think it's mostly parents and grandparents, but I know there are kids that follow it. But I'd say it's definitely mostly parents and grandparents. Because honestly, I think that we are more, young people are uncertain about the future and maybe not excited about the future and maybe a little bit fatalistic about it. But I think it's parents and grandparents that are probably most concerned, that understand more about the realities of the world and are most interested in seeing that young people, the ones that they love, are going to be able to succeed and thrive within it. So it's mostly that, but there are definitely some good young people in there. There was one who told us, who commented on one of Max's posts the other day, this girl who's still in high school, got the book, loves it. And she told that, she convinced her teachers in 3 of her classes to give her time to give a presentation about the book.
Yeah.
And she said it opened people's eyes. They were she said it was so cool to see people get excited about the future, that there was a different path. That she said it was, the way she described it was just wonderful. So, there are young people like this young lady who read Maxim's blog and are motivated by what he's doing, and are figuring out how to spread the word. So that's why I want to make sure it's in public libraries, so they can get it. So call your local library.
The subtitle is How to Become Competent, Confident, and Dangerous. Ooh, got to put that dangerous in there. What's up with that?
Well, what's more dangerous than a man who knows who he is, knows what he believes, and knows how to affect the world around him? What's more dangerous than that?
Yeah, dangerous
to the man.
To whom?
To the man.
the man. This has been very inspirational. We leave it at whatever you have as a recommendation for buying the book. Who needs? And this is preparation for the parents and grandparents and guardians and, extended, favorite uncle or something that sees the problem, sees what's coming, sees that they're not prepared. And the system is not there to prepare for this kind of Renaissance person. In fact, it does everything to stop it. You're up against a headwind, and it's hard to, it's almost unassailable. It's kind of like the philosophy of liberty thing. Oh, I don't know myself. Well, you can say that as often and as loud as you want. Look at that guy, So it's, I'm looking for its time, the timing of it. Do you feel the timing, the circumstances that were being presented, and the okay, I want to share this. This is give you a good mindset. Aurelus Kennedy is the daughter-in-law of John F. Kennedy Jr. She married the third, his son, and she became his campaign manager for Jr. Well, she was previously married to a CIA guy, and she was a CIA knock herself. So she was in Oxford or something, doing whatever. And they were talking about, this mass formation psychosis, during COVID and Trump derangement syndrome and, how people are just triggered to, you offended me and all this kind of crap. And she goes, no matter how much detail, data, you articulate yourself clearly, you show it to side, they just can't. Their blinders are up. You can't change them. Nope. I'm in tribe, blue over here, whatever. And she goes, as a CIA person, I recognized what this was. It was a Tucker Carlson interview with Aurelus Kennedy, and it was like October or something, hour and 47 minutes. About an hour and 36 minutes in, she started talking about this, and she goes, I recognized what it was. In the Cold War, during the, MK Ultra crap and all that kind of stuff, in the 70s and 80s, they had a thing, I don't know, they call it Russia House or something. What it was is they would take trained agents and they'd put them in a bunker. You are now premier of your head Soviet Union guy, okay? They were immersed in Russian propaganda, Russian newspapers, Russian television, Russian movies, Russian. The reason is they wanted to get the perspective. If this action happened, what would you do? How it would be perceived by So they got a lot of great intel from this perspective. Then it kind of Cold War goes, and they resurrected it after 9/11. We're going to do it, with the Muslim kind of thing. We want to understand, what we can get away with, basically. So DARPA saw this as a weapon, because what they realized after they got out, they went native. You can't put that agent in the field. That's not going to work. You went native. So what they realized is that there was a part of the brain on the side, I can't remember, part of the brain that once you get indoctrinated, immersed, which is what's happening with AI, what's happening with the internet, what's happening with the school system, what's happening with commercials, what's happening with the broadcast media, and these companies that everybody owns the media, whatever. Israel got TikTok. It just goes on and on and on. And they realized that if you could get to that primal part of your tribe kind of thing. You want to be accepted. You want to be part of, because you go out in the savannah hunting and they leave you for the saber-toothed tigers if you're not with the program. It was kind of a primal thing. So she's going, the part of the brain that lit up was the same thing when you're like selecting a slogan on your shirt. Oh, my friends will make fun of me. I don't want to wear that. It was the same thing. It was the inclusion in the group kind of deal. So they realized that if they could immerse you into the common thought process, this mass formation psychosis thing they were talking about, if they could immerse you in that, well, then you would develop those traits, you would have those values, you would, repeat the party line. She goes, that's what I'm seeing happening. But she was left and CIA trained and, liberal and JFK Jr.'s daughter-in-law. But she could see how all of this stuff was programmed. And I just knew that we were up against a headwind of this kind of crap as activists, all the deplatforming and, and shadow banning and whatever, it's all part of it. So TikTok, oh, hell no, we got to get control of that kind of thing, thinking that that's a stationary target. But it really hit me hard that I go, wow, and I promoted that segment a lot because I'm saying, look, we knew as activists we were up against this kind of stuff. We knew when they go Total Information Awareness Program, Palantir, or whatever, all that data and information is to do this, is to influence you. What's the cure? The preparation, the understanding that you own yourself, all this basic philosophy of liberty, fundamental stuff. That is what they're afraid of. That is their headwind. That is where the physical world goes up against your, utopian collectivist dream of we rule you. That's why I'm so supportive of the preparation. There's nothing else out there for me, other than just grab your grandkids and, go on a trip with them, or something, but which used to happen. Mentorship, internship, apprenticeship has been beaten out of the system intentionally. But it's 100%. Going to make a resurrection. Do you think?
100%. I totally agree. In fact, I think the younger generation is the most, has been subject to the worst treatment of any generation. And people got to realize that they're the most scheduled, tracked, managed, surveilled generation that's ever walked on Earth. And not only that, but they've been segregated from other generations in a way that in the past
not productive.
It's dangerous and bad. And so that's one of the things I try and approach in the book and explain how extremely valuable intergenerational relationships are, and how that's the one of the secrets to real success in life is to be, if you're only surrounded by your peers, in a way you're always competing with your peers. I mean, they want the same things you want. They're at the same place you are in life. Even if you love one another, you're still competition for each other. You're both as dumb as each other. There's not much value. Those relationships can be good and important and healthy, but they're not nearly as empowering or useful as intergenerational relationships are. And, that speaks right to this, these internships you talk about, these apprenticeship type of relationships. It's, somebody who knows and understands the world, who basically is in no way competition with you, but strangely, and young people don't realize this, that they want you to be successful. You see it all the time. If people have come out of the woodwork to offer Maxim opportunities and advice, people of older generations, and why? Because they see a young person taking action in the world, trying to make something of themselves. And amazingly, people come out of the woodwork to help you. This is actually how the world works. It's always worked this way, but young people don't know it. And, so I try and open their mind to that idea, because they'll see it if they start getting out there and getting after it a little bit. People will come out to help them.
You want to support that which you want to see more of. It's that simple. I'll buy, a $60 hoodie and $30 because it came from Canada with tariffs and tax. Oh my God, man! There's Edison Motors. It's these guys building trucks and
yeah. I know what they're doing. Yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah. I interview that guy all the time, man. I'm just like, man, what's a tragedy today from the government of whatever? And he's pushing through this, and this has been recognized by a lot of people. And I want to show this. I just pulled this up. This is Mike Rowe's thing, learning the trades. America is profoundly disconnected. We're working to change that. Well, what is this? These guys, like during COVID years and so on, and even before, I think, they get these guys to learn how to be a worker. I mean, a tradesman, HVAC, electrician, plumber, construction. Guess what? They don't have debt. Guess what? They're making bank. Guess what? They could have, a family, a white picket fence, and the BMW. Here we go. And I could see that the preparation was kind of before this. I mean, it can include this kind of stuff. But the point is that it's a desire and understanding, a value in this kind of an education. And what do you call it? Is it education? Has it gotten to the point of, indoctrinating them in the right way, unindoctrinating them? How do you see it? How would you label this?
I wouldn't see it as education. What I would say is it's fundamentally about, we talked about at the very beginning, be, do, and have. It's trying to help the young person become the young, male specifically, that's what it's oriented to, but it can be for girls too, to become the man they want to be. It's not about, I'm all for the trades, totally support it. But that's just that is an outcome that allows you to be able to pay your rent. And frankly, that's not a worthwhile pursuit. I mean, what I mean by that is just doing stuff so that you can pay your rent is not very inspiring, to young people or to the future that we want to build in this world. Instead, we want to make great men are good, men who have become something, who are people of substance. Now, those people happen to be able to pay their rent, but that's an offshoot. Again, it's like it's not the primary goal. The primary goal is to help. I'm not trying to shape people to become a particular type of man. If you just inspire a young person to figure out what kind of man they want to be, you'll be happy with that. If they're motivated by that, by virtue and aspiration, and they'll be motivated by that. So it's I would say it's more philosophical than educational fundamentally, which is why I think people benefit from it, reading the book of all ages, because they find the thinking around it useful, and the list of actions that they might do to improve themselves laid out clearly, in these cycles, even if they're just kind of cherry picking and doing some additional things on the side, they find that level of thinking and then direction really, really powerful.
Do they get a diploma? They make their own diploma. Grandpa gives them the pocket knife. I mean, how do they manifest that? I win.
You do get certificates for a lot of these things. Like I said, Max is a qualified crewman, on a sailboat. So you do get these little tokens along the way.
I got real diplomas.
Yeah, but the fundamental thing is they learn not to look to others for validation.
Boom. There's a diploma right there.
Yeah, that's what I'm a college dropout. Doug is a highly educated, Georgetown graduate. He thinks that it was he's been saying since he was on Donahue in the 1980 or whatever, that was a huge misallocation of money and time. But I know these things, people want this third party validation. And I understand. I can tell you what Max's first 7 or 8 months of doing this, I got calls from my brother, my mother, and my sister, all worried about what Max was doing. They're like, is he okay? What's he doing? I'm like, yeah, it didn't make any sense in their understanding of the way the world works. And I
Where's
said,
his bubble wrap? You got to wrap him.
I said, he's doing fine. And now, after a year of doing it, especially now, it's so self-evidently obvious that he's on the right track to all of them that they just, are just really proud. So, but it is hard to break away, from that external validation that you get. And, going to college is a safe route because you can go for 4 years and everyone around you will feel like, oh, you're being successful. You're getting reasonable grades or, maybe even good grades. And nobody's telling you that you're on the road to perdition the entire time. There's not going to be a job available for you and you're going to have a huge amount of debt, but you can feel safe that you are doing the thing that will get you validation.
One of my nephews, Donna's younger brother, he's a Moody's Whippy Dippy VP, Manhattan kind of guy. And his wife is in publishing. She does, so they got resources. They have 3 sons. One just graduated college. One's, I think, like going to a junior at Penn State. Another one's going in the Boston senior in high school. Well, of course, we've known him since forever and raised in, crazy Uncle Ernie, and then, all of a sudden it's like, damn, Uncle Ernie was as crazy as we thought. So, the real liberal one, the philosophy of liberty thing, having an impact there. Well, the middle one at Penn State, he decided he really likes, commercial real estate. He got into the real estate thing, he got inspired for that, and he goes, what the hell am I doing in college? I could have been doing all this. What a waste of freaking time and money. And so he's kind of already in that mindset that actually doing. So I mentioned the prep rag. This is, you should have started here. And, maybe this might be. So this has been just in my life. You can see the need for this. We are saturated with not men, and for me, I remember, asking when I was like 20 or 18, are you a man now? Are you still a virgin? Is that going to make you a man?
Yeah, exactly.
You did that? You had a baby? Does that make you a man? What makes you a man? When you can be self-sufficient, when you take care of yourself and you can take care of a family. Man, I don't know what other man criteria there is, but I don't know if I got to be able to slit throats and raise the black flag when I want, go a Heinlein on them. But to be a man, you got to be able to take care of a family. I mean, that's kind of the point. And that's not what they're raising. This is not. And I remember, I wanted to make sure I got this. I thought about it. I wrote it down. I think it was in the 90s here in Arizona. They have one of the radio stations here, just to get attention, or they'd done this in Texas or whatever, before the internet. You don't know anything that happens anywhere else. But what they had done is called KSLX, for your constipation or whatever. So they had KSLX, radio station for men, okay? So they just kept pumping that. Radio station for men. We don't need women. Screw the women. Radio station for men, rock and roll and whatever. It got so much attention. The women, well, I can listen to it. Well, I listen to it. So there, they would have events at nightclubs. There were more women than men. It was like, it's a radio station for men. And they played that up like you wouldn't believe. I thought it was awesome. Well, of course, the liberal media made a big deal out of it, which is just more advertising. So It's when you do the preparation for men, well, it doesn't necessarily say that, but I can see how women would be. Oh, what are they doing here? I'm a feminine. I'm equal. I can lift that bale and tote that barge. I mean, but then you start finding out there are physical limitations. There is, I've been amazed, deadliest catch crab boats. You got women out there on the crab. You can do it. Peace out, man. Knock yourself out. Don't care. But the thing is that you haven't been in the Army. I'm sure you're like going, this woke. God, there are rules. There are, tendencies just in our mind. We are not the same type of human. Which viva la différence, man. I'm all over that. And I love, my wife, Donna, she's taken on way more manly things. She's doing kind of out here. And I know she feels.
Yeah,
I remember
awesome.
when I saw the change in Donna. It was night and day. She went and became a parachutist. She went through the class, and I remember all the grandkids there. We go, my grandma parachutes. I mean, she comes down, lands, her first solo, and so on. Man, she was different from that point on. You multiply that times 16 cycles, you're different. And people notice it.
I totally agree. I
attractive.
see the biggest difference between the men and the women part of it is simply that, I can just see in my two kids that there's kind of the hopes, the ambitions, and the fears that my daughter has are just different than my son's. It doesn't mean that that they're less or more capable to do any of the cycles. I think it's much more that I think for a female version of the book, we could do a better job of addressing some of those things. That's where I think the difference might be. And I do not want my daughter going and getting, kneed in the face at Muay Thai camp. I'm not really personally. If she really wanted to, I'd support
Maybe she wants to.
But I'd rather her. I think not say it.
Firearm training.
Firearm training. I've given her a bit of that. But she could use a lot more of it. But but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for her, I wouldn't mind that so much. She's done some of that. But I mean, like that it just there's some things I personally as a father have a different preference around with it. But the bigger issue with the book and where it's male focused is it doesn't deal with some particulars that girls have versus boys. I mean, a young woman gets a lot of attention sort of naturally, and young men are basically looked over. Like that different dynamic in the world changes a lot. It changes a lot. So how do you cope with both of those things, those two different situations? I think you kind of need a different formula to deal with it. But
okay,
does that make sense?
More. Yeah, I got a final question, and make this comment. I have 4 children. They're almost 4 under 4. I mean, we had them right after each other, and we wanted to get 2 boys, 2 girls, and we're done. We did. Boom. Blessings. Thank you. We'll skate in and out of high school, college, that kind of thing. And what happened was my oldest daughter, when she graduated high school, I had just started doing radio back in '03. And I had an advertiser that was a gun shop that had a self-defense class for women. So part of the compensation, I go, I'll pump the crap out of you, get my daughter and my wife, go and take care of them. It was 2 8-hour days over a weekend, Saturday and Sunday all day. And all it was get the freak away. You're not trying to beat up the guy. You're not going to go 3 months of Muay Thai. You need to know, do this move, get out, do scream, whatever. And of course, when my children all left, I either gave them a gun or let them pick from mine. And one of my sons took my favorite son. But anyway, so I'm going like, I shouldn't have done that. But so I'm going firearms training. That was something we took care of, and kind of their whole life, they're comfortable with guns. My grandkids, we're fine. But the physical altercation, the physicality of a man trying to whatever, they went to this class, and I was very appreciative of them having gone through that. Certainly as a mother and daughter together, So my question is, there is certainly edits or emphasis or additions or subtractions or whatever in the preparation book too. And do you anticipate, because you got a daughter, hey, damn it, come on, man, is there a preparation for women in the works? And how would how would you do that?
We are working on it. We are working on it. Whether or not it gets published or not, I can't say for sure, but it's being worked on, and I think that many things will stay fundamentally the same. Some of the cycles would change a bit as recommendations. And then, like I said, I'm much more, there's just the vulnerability of a young woman in the world is different than that of a young man. And so it's like trying to find ways, like you're talking about the self-defense thing, to address that, but more than just that, the other vulnerabilities I think they face, trying to address those things in a way that is empowering to the women who read it, I guess, is the way to say it. It's not an easy thing to do, to be honest. So I'm sort of struggling with it, but I think we'll figure it out.
One thing is that you have, you get in the club. It's been amazing to me how a lot of times it'll be hardcore anarchist libertarians marry a liberal woman because, I don't know, they make a connection, they balance each other out, they whatever. And it wasn't until really, Donna was always supportive. She was always on board. She took that role. But it wasn't until the Levolution with Dr. Ron Paul it cured her apathy. I mean, all of a sudden, certainly because she's, very Christian, that perspective appealed to her more. What would Jesus do kind of thing? And when Dr. Paul incorporated libertarianism with faith and that, she's done. I'm in. This is the right way. And I'm thinking that in the liberty community, which I'm certain the preparation would be applauded, is coupling up. I saw in the Levolution there was a website they'd have, meet fellow Levolutionaries. We're going to have freedom people marrying freedom people, and we'll get freedom babies, whatever. And I'm just wondering if there's going to be a social thing that gravitates towards preparation graduates. It's going to, you have your own dating webs. Maxim can get filthy, stinking rich entrepreneuring, having the preparation gadgets. Get one over here. From whatever country or something. I just see it's such a cultural awakening. It's happening already, and I can see, and there certainly is recognition of the need. And to have this, and you win when you get a bunch of copycats, and they want to strip out some stuff and put some more stuff. Well, you need to know a little bit of basket weaving. I mean, that kind of thing, but which is not necessarily a bad thing. But so I can see this progressing. Has Maxim relayed to you any kind of he's got ideas of supplementals or something that he would add to it, or pages, or his own book, or is he getting inspired?
There's definitely some specific changes or additions we want to make to some of the cycles that have come from him, that, will be in an update. But, he started to write about his own process this, the experience he's gone through. And it's a worthy story to tell. So who knows what'll happen with that? But he's started to write that, and what I've seen of it, it's very good. I mean, it's one thing, he's become a competent writer also, over the last 2 years because of his public accountability. By holding himself accountable. It started off, he'd write these crude lists of what he got done that week, and he published it. No one was reading it except me. And over time, it evolved, and it became, he took courses on writing. He read books on writing. He, along the way, and just the practice of doing it, he's become a competent writer. And, and so now I don't know how many people, maybe it's 8,000 or something like that, read his blog weekly. So, he's built an audience there. And, but, he's doing it to hold himself accountable, not, that's the primary driver. And the great thing about that is, talk about connecting people. Everybody who's doing the preparation, we encourage them to do exactly the same thing. Just post publicly what you got done that week, and let us know when you're doing it. We'll bring attention to what you're doing, and so other people are doing it, can get connected, and other people are aware of what you're doing. And so we do see that kind of network effect beginning to happen, and it's pretty cool. I mean, it's wonderful to see. So those connections will happen organically. I think there's more we could do to make it so it's easier for those connections to happen. But it's I think it's really about us getting the word out.
Language and cultures. Is it just English speaking? Have you got any?
There are four different Spanish, Russian, and Chinese publishers who approached me about republishing the book, or translating it and publishing it. And the thing is that the academic courses that we recommend are all in English. So I haven't figured out how to handle that yet, but I've had offers from 3 different publishers. Actually, I don't have any offer from an American publisher to pick it up and run with it, but I do from 3 different countries who are interested in doing it. And I just haven't figured out. I think there's some translation software that they could probably use that would work, that does like real-time audio translation, but I'm not certain about that yet. So, but yeah, okay. I expect it could take a different legs in different other countries. I certainly hope so. I mean, we had sales from all over the world.
Well, this is something I can help with. The decade and a half of me interviewing all these entrepreneur young people in their 20s, early 30s that own businesses, that are involved, whatever, from everywhere. I mean, Nepal, seriously. And it's just all over the world. They could help with, AI probably do translation, but you need to know a place. Where do you build your house outside of Shenzhen? I mean, where do you build your house, northern Japan? Where do you build a house, that kind of thing. And Africa, Doug's really big on Africa, man. If you're willing to put up with the crap, I mean, there's opportunities. But, and it's good to get there at a foundation and breaking away from European colonial mindset of we rule and own you. And for them to get that that's why I was so encouraged by the Uganda guy. I'm like, how the hell did you get in the middle of the freedom of whatever? And it was just, there's always that one guy. There's always Neo, the one. There's always the splinter in the mind of somebody somewhere. And you encourage that even a little bit, and boom, it blows up. So I'm seeing that if you need contacts, and that's where Ken Schoolin comes in, Liberty International, all the translations that we're doing on the Philosophy of Liberty thing. Jacek is from Poland, we know well. Alessandro Fucila from Italia. He's an attorney that has law offices in Madrid, Berlin, and Rome. I mean, the boy's got skills. And he's a hardcore anarchist libertarian defending the people that wouldn't close their restaurants during COVID, that kind of thing. He's hardcore. We need a Second Amendment for Europe kind of deal. Well, I got him a lot of attention. So, this is, kind of the network that we have. And when you're ready for this, man, we're just going to create this, parent, grandparent, saving the world kind of crap, because we know what we're up against. It's fundamental. It's basic. It's not a religion. It's a logic. It's a reason thing. Have your own religion. Do whatever you do. That's not even the freaking point. And from all religions, they only last because there's some kernel of truth in there.
Right, exactly.
Usually,
yeah.
unless there's force, but so there's a lot of this. The Christian ethic of whatever is successful because it adheres a lot to this kind of stuff. Now, the Old Testament, not the same thing as the New Testament, but I can see where this goes. If you can't see it, let me be your eyes, man, because it's crystal clear to me, because I see what's up. So that's, we'll leave it there. I give you an opportunity to pimp the book and where people should be going and finding, Maxim's stuff. We got the preparation, but he has his own blog as well.
Yeah.
And you go thepreparation.com and you'll see a lot of the stuff there.
There's two things. So we have a website, a Substack set up for the preparation itself, where we do publish essentially when new people join and new people start doing it, we share. So you see that one, 4 more. I'm happy to say that's 4 new people that week, that started publishing their weekly accountability, and so we, shared that with the list.
What are you saying? 4 more? What am I looking at?
4. Yeah, that headline right there at the top of the article. It's 4 more. I'm happy to say that's the headline. So that was 4 new people joining that Max was announcing. That are 4 new. We call them preppers, who had joined in. So that he was sharing. So you can go to thepreparation.com and you can sign up on this list and hear about those, see what the other young people are doing. You can go, Maxim's blog is maximsmith.com.
Yeah, so I see the woman here. We got
there's
Sophia out
honestly
there
a lot of young women are doing this. Women can get shit done. I have to say, and some are doing some extraordinary things with this. I love it. It's great to see. So anyway, so there's several in here. Yeah, it's like Cody Mack and Abbott in there. And that was just, from last week, joining in. So the preparation is one place you can go. Maxim Smith is his blog, where you can see his updates of what he's doing every week himself. And you can get the book. Easiest place, frankly, is on Amazon. There's an audiobook recorded by myself and Max. So it might not be, we're not professionals, did the best we could, but we wanted it to be in our own voices. And there's the Kindle version, and then there's a hardcover and softcover. The hardcover is full color.
There you go.
If you're trying to impress, if you're trying to put this in the hand of a young person and make it significant, I do think the hardcover helps, because it should be, I think it'll be like a book they've never had before in its
coffee
contents,
table,
but also in form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it'll get their attention, maybe get them to a little curious and to start flipping through the whole thing and, maybe get hooked. That's the idea. So.
Okay. So let's see. Let's get the summary of customers say. Customers find the book offers actionable strategies to build competence in any skill and serves as a valuable path to leading an extraordinary life. Moreover, the book provides great ideas and helps develop unshakable confidence, with one customer noting it's particularly suitable for young adults. Additionally, they appreciate its execution quality and consider it worth the price, with one review highlighting its relevance to almost anyone. And then it goes into a bunch of, comments. And that's kind of the summary from, I guess AI does that or whatever. But so let's take a look at this. $65, best $65 you ever spent. So it's not free. I mean, that's for sure.
Well, that's the hardcover version. The hardcover version, honestly, most of the money goes to Amazon. But the hardcover version is designed so that if you're trying to put it in somebody and maybe be able to get through to them, like as a parent or a grandparent, I think it might be more effective. So it costs more to build that book.
Yeah.
Kindle,
$20, paperback, $35, hardcover. See, I suggest get the hardcover. I like it. It makes me look cool sitting on the coffee table in the night. When we had our home in North Phoenix, you've been there, haven't you? I think, you went there that time.
Yeah.
It was my 50th birthday party or something. You were in town there. Yeah. And aren't you 50 now, old man?
I am 50 now. It's hard to believe how fast it's come.
Boom. I remember this is such genesis from your life of kind of living this life, going through. You don't think you know, and you understood the value of it when Doug presented this idea. Certainly when you had, graduating teenage, going into adulthood male boy is like, damn, what do I do now? So I'm really encouraged by this project. I'm going to use the shit out of it because I can. This is, it is a tool like everything that I do. You have to, and I tell you what it is. It's one big, giant, less thing I got to do. That's what it is, So
well, I'm happy to help you in that area. And I appreciate all your support you've given. This has been amazing, actually. I'm glad you get what we're trying to do.
From before even Maxim understood. The one thing I knew in the preparation, it's marketing and so on. Maxim came on, and one of my graphic artists, I had him sit in for like an hour. We went through building the banner ad that goes on our email dispatch. And I go, this, and had him, the text goes, the logo goes here, the text, darken this, lighten this, font this, change the outline, that, showing him how you could take the creativity and you could do it right then within an hour, and you're done if you got a graphic artist. Well, now you just use AI-generated graphics of same thing and just text in the whatever. But you have to be able to understand why you're crafting it a certain way. What's the board? What's the logo? So we did that, and that's one more thing that he learned. Well, how's that going to benefit? I don't know. When he needs it, that's when it's going to benefit him. So this has been, I appreciate you guys coming on and helping me promote the concept behind it, how we're going to use it, what it's for. And there's headwinds coming, man. They are, they, them, those. I go, who are they, you conspiracist? There are those that just want to be left alone, and those that just won't leave them alone. That's who they, them, those are. They're the ones that won't leave me alone. And they are not going to leave us alone on this. I guarantee it. But what do they got? What's their ammunition? Department of Education, which they just fully funded. I'm going, I thought we were supposed to get rid of this thing. What the hell? There you lying sacks of snot. So they're not coming to save you. Just saying, okay? And, those of us, oh my God, silver got crushed down to 79 when we all bought it at 18 or something. So I just, it's the repudiation of the system economically, educationally, philosophically, politically. It is happening right now, and it's kind of that Ayn Rand thing. Who's going to be the entrepreneurs that save us? And maybe they won't. Maybe they go, you know what? We're good. We're in Galt's Gulch over here. We're chilling. And, maybe we'll help the cockroaches that, make it out at the end. I mean, it's just, we're not going to be your enemy. We're not dealing. We're just over here, man. They go, yeah, but we know you got stuff. We need to audit Matt. There's something else we can get from them. We gotta slow it down. Well, I'm glad that you guys are there. I'm glad you guys are helping, and I think you see what is going on. And go to Amazon.com. Just put in the preparation. Get the book. If you're a grandparent, just note on it, gift to favorite grandson or granddaughter, and just see what happens. Just have an encouragement. Hey, I'll pay for you to go to this one class. Oh, you can be an EMT. Yeah, go learn to build a whatever. Go, cowboy up. Uncle What's-His-Face has got a ranch. You need to spend the summer there. You need a dairy farm. You need to work. Oh, my God, you might even make some money. So this is foundationally a good idea, and I want to help. From the beginning, I was all excited from the beginning.
You've been great. You've been great.
Why?
I wanted to call to action.
Call
your public library and ask them to carry it like that. I think that's I don't like the government doing anything, but they're going to be buying all kinds of terrible books. You might as well get them to buy one that might be useful to a young man who might stumble across it. So I'd ask people to do that.
One of the things is even we have done this before. I mean, we do it with The Law by Bastiat. I mean, we were just by the case and do this kind of thing. You can buy the book and give it to the library. This is, you just put it on the shelf in the school library. This is activism. We've done that many times. We did Unintended Consequences in the mid-90s by Ross. It was, it's like a Claire Wolfe said it's a romance novel for men. I mean, it was kind of a man thing, and it was in opposition to tyranny, whatever. But we bought 90 copies and gave it to every Arizona legislator. Are they going to read it? Hell no, I didn't care. That wasn't the point. There was a freaking fact that they got it. So this could be a campaign for this needs to go to what? Their vocational teacher? Go to the school? Go to put it in the faculty lounge? I mean, this is what they're competing with. Know your enemy. You better get on board or what? So education. Before you go, I'll leave us with this. How important is it to extract your children from government indoctrination, the mandatory youth indoctrination camps, aka government schools? And the thought process on that, what you did, what the pitfalls were, why? Is that a general recommendation? My school's okay. No, it's not. So give your opinion.
I have to say, I wish I had my kids went to, supposedly good public schools and good private schools. And it wasn't until COVID that I actually got to see how bad it really was. So I failed in that regard to a great degree. I really did, because I didn't see it until COVID. But once I saw, I could see on Zoom what they were being assigned. I could see the activism in the teachers.
Yeah, you're not allowed to look. They're my kid when they're on this screen. What's Dad doing there? Yeah.
So that was after that I pulled them out, and I wish I'd done it sooner. I think that they would be much further ahead academically if they'd been out of school. I mean, forget about the brainwashing they get for a second, which is of course critical, but forget about that for a second. With the first early COVID, so they pull them out of school. What they do is they didn't know how to handle it yet, the Zoom classes. So what they did, they decided they just assign in the morning all of the work the kids were supposed to do, and then they would check in with them at the end of the day. So this was their first week of handling it, that kind of triage. And so the kids would get their assignments in the morning. They would run off to their rooms. They would come back within 60 to 90 minutes with 100% of what they were supposed to do during that school day done. When I saw that alone, I'm like, why the freak are you there for 8 hours a day? What are they doing? Like, this is an unbelievable waste of time for you to be going and spending 8 or 9 hours a day in school, and you can get your work done in 60 minutes. So that alone was shocking to me. And, giving them those extra hours back to pursue their curiosity, to like research and study and explore and do things that were just of interest to them, involves so much more learning for them than they could possibly get in an institution. And of course, then you layer on the brainwashing that they get, it becomes really dangerous. I mean, I think especially for young women at university, I know 2 fathers who told me personally, this is the exact phrase they use. They lost their daughter to university. They lost them. So like that's like, so your son gets drafted, your daughter gets lost in ideology. Like, those are the red lines for me, not going to happen as long as I'm here. And so it's a terrifying concept. I've only heard about this with women, actually, but I'm sure there's samples of this where this happened with young men too. And the idea that you could actually literally lose your children to what the brainwashing they're getting is a terrifying concept, and one that must be avoided at all costs.
What directs this? What are we up against? Is it a central plan of we rule you, and now we got AI and Palantir is going to, lock the door on your mind? I mean, where are we going with this? What are we up against? A philosophy, an entity, a group? It's this DARPA weaponizing immersion thing. You knew that was kind of there, but to have it confirmed, I was just like, wow, we're under attack.
We're under attack. Well, you can speculate about what it might be, or you can just look at its results and its actions in pursuing those results, and those are evil. So I don't have to know what the they, them, those, or whatever are, but I know that its actions are fundamentally evil, and so I would assume that at the root of it is evil. Whatever the intent is, it's evil, and we are under attack. And if you can't doubt this after COVID. Like, you can't doubt it.
Right.
Like, it's so in your face. It's so accelerationist at this point that it's they don't even bother with the plausible deniability anymore.
Well, they try and do this evil. What's evil? Subjective, your subjected evil. I'm going, I don't know, it's bad guys doing bad stuff they know is bad. I don't know what the hell your definition of evil is. I mean, it's pretty clear.
It's anti-human. Like, it's anti-life. If anything, it's ugly. Like, good is things that are life affirming, that are beautiful. And, the opposite of that is evil.
That's one thing Ayn Rand made a big deal in the 50s, 60s, is you're anti-life. And she wasn't talking about abortion or anything. She was talking about living. The anti-life people were just sucking the life out of you. Like the Philosopher's Liberty video talks about that. It's just, your life, and that it belongs to you. You have a right to sustain it. You have a right to keep somebody from stopping you from breathing. I can tell you that, I defend my life. And then you have your free hands, your liberty, to what? To fashion raw material into your property. You have, past, present, future. It's all three ways of saying the same thing. My life, my liberty, and my justly acquired property is freaking mine, not yours. Well, they indoctrinate you, and it seems like the goal is to get you out of that way of thinking. What used to be Yankee ingenuity, American know-how, that pull yourself up by bootstraps and kind of what, well, I don't have boots, so I don't owe you anything other than, I don't know, not violate your rights. And that was the purpose and the promise of government, and it became the very definition of the thing they were supposed to protect us from, and we're paying for it. Government doesn't work. I want my money back. Okay?
Me too.
That was Tony Marie's phrase. She really liked that. She's going, government doesn't work. I want my money back.
Yeah, no kidding.
We put that on a t-shirt.
Just stop stealing it. We can call it even if you'll stop stealing it. I think I'd be okay with
that. I don't want to fix you. I just want to fix
Just leave me alone.
Just leave me alone. Well, I'm out in the freaking, man. You see the videos. We do aerial drone shots. I got I think 4 people that live within 10 miles of me. I am in the freaking desert. Now, it took me 4 months just to do the road where I get the bus back here. So if they come out here at the end of the cow trail, somebody put a piece of paper in their inbox. You know what I mean? So I'm just, waiting for the man, but I got a plan. We're going to have some fun. So this
I can see all this stuff at occupytheland.org. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You can see us doing whatever. We got a Telegram, but I don't really make a big deal out of it other than just documenting this, So
but I'd like to see. I haven't seen any of it. I'd like to see some of it. So
just go take a look. You'll see what we're doing. Bill and Don and I, we're so big. Like yesterday and today, I crunch up all my shows. 3 yesterday, 3 today. So I'm not doing anything else but sitting in the chair and editing, all that kind of stuff. But then we have to, we got to do the workshop. We got to keep building on, the home. We got a test dome that we're doing, and then we have a pad that that's a lot of freaking work, man. I'm loving it. Donna goes like this. She goes, well, this is going to take years. And I go, yeah. Lucky, She goes, yeah, but our silver, we could hide. No. That's not what this is about. It's the inspiration of a husband and wife, the techniques that we're doing. We can do it. We use mostly masonry and steel and, dirt and Adobe earth bags and, that kind of thing, so that we could just build it, leave it, 3-4 months, come back, nothing's changed. You don't have this, disintegration of everything. Your house starts losing value the second you get done. So this is what we're doing. It's 18 acres, and we're developing probably about 10 of it. And the rest of it's for, my sisters may retire out here. My family may. I got a grandkid that'll want to whatever. And they finally made it out Christmas. The weekend after Christmas, my whole family, some of them had been out, some of the everybody came. And then they were like, okay, it's not as bad as we thought. Mom and dad aren't crazy as we thought, crazier. And her brother came and his family, they came and visited. It was awesome. if you could walk them through the vision of what we're building and the infrastructure that we've already done, man, I got prepared. But it took me 65 years. You know, I'd like to have known this when I was in my 20s, then I would have done this. And we'd have the hacienda, legacy of the, oh, are you kidding me, and been self-sufficient. But technology has changed. The power, because Arizona, solar kicks ass out here. So I got plenty of power. We source the water. We're growing our food. We're getting at the point now that we're probably before summer we'll have fencing up. We can start doing livestock. We're doing the chicken coop, is being about 90% done. So but every day we got something to do, and we're sharing. Yeah. So we could do a better job of that. I got to add, I just take video and send it there, put that together and whatever. But that's why I'm going to North Acapulco. I asked to speak there this year was on this. I'm going, okay,
I think it's
you're
great.
crypto rich, now what?
Yeah.
What do you say you do here, Hey, we could go on for hours and hours more. It's already been a couple hours. Matt, thank you very much for this. I don't need to ask why. You told, because, man, I looked at my son and I'm like, damn, Doug, we need to do the book. Here we go. Thank you very much for doing it. I'm a big fan. I'm going to be pushing it because I'm going to use it. I know you don't mind, but here it comes.
I want it to be used. It needs to be used. Thank you very much, Ernie. I really appreciate it. All the support you've given me for anything I've done over the years. You're always a source of encouragement for people to get out there and do shit.
That which you want to see more of. That's my simple thing, and that's what I do, and it makes me. The only way I know how to be free is to advocate it for everyone. Mm-hmm. I'm not looking for a certain kind of freedom. I'm not looking for a red-blue freedom. I'm just a leave me alone. What are you, Ernie, an anarchist? I'm a leave me alone. That's what I am. However you want to define that. But that's where we're going, and we want to help. And I appreciate you allowing me. Thank you. So the preparation. Matt Smith, Doug Casey, Maxim Smith, doing it. Now other people are doing it. This is just the beginning. It's not the end is nigh. The beginning is nigh. Get ready for it. Peace.